Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Rashkity, Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another podcast here on Cúilín Media. It's the three of us here today. Liam unfortunately cannot make this one, but it is myself, Seamus Brady, joined by Matthew Hurley and Aaron Prendergast to run through the week in Gaelic games and also to have a little preview ahead. For the upcoming action, we have the Provincial Club Championship action kicking off. We also have some county finals. We have a lot to get through as well, lads. Lads, good to have you with me here for this episode. Matthew, I'll come to you first. Busy man?
Yeah, I suppose so. She's doing bits and stuff for the sort of start right now and things like that throughout the winter months. Obviously there is county finals still happening down in Cork, which is absolutely incredible to think. But yeah, the provincial championships are beginning this weekend. I looked at the odds as well, and great to see the football standpoint that St. Finbarrs are fifth in the odds to win the All-Ireland. So I think since the Nemo win, they seem to be hyped up quite a lot, probably because Brian Hayes is midfield and all that. Looking forward to the provincial championships now. Should be good action here or there. There's the Roscommon provincial final or county final replay there this weekend. There's also finals in the likes of Wexford and Galway hurling as well. So lots to look forward to this weekend.
Absolutely. So, Aaron, how are we keeping?
Good, yeah. Now looking forward to getting into the weekend's games. The Provincial Club Championship starts this weekend, so should be some interesting games there. Obviously, with the early rounds in Leinster, we've got Toy versus Baltinglass, which I think will be an interesting game. In fairness, and some interesting games, most notably to go through. And looking forward to getting involved with everyone in the chat as well. And I'm sure plenty of news stories as well. I've seen the new Dublin kit that got released earlier. I don't know what your lads' take on it was.
What do you think about that? First reaction, I was like, it's okay.
I don't know. I feel like they've tried to be a bit too trendy or a bit too kind of. It looks like an alternative kit or something like that. It doesn't really look like a home kit.
I agree. I thought it looked a bit like a training top when I first seen it.
Maybe when I see it in close, like it's one of them, like the 2023 kit, I remember I wasn't a big fan of. But then in time, the more I seen it and everything else and actually seen it in the flesh, it kind of grew on me a bit more.
Plus we won an All-Ireland in that jersey.
We also won an All-Ireland in that kit as well, which does help. So if we win an All-Ireland in this kit, it doesn't really matter after that, to be fair. It is interesting. To be fair, it is different. And there's probably only so much you can do, with navy and light blue. I think a lot of counties do struggle with kits because, you look at Galway, for example, it's always just kind of the same kit, really, with maybe a few variations. So they've tried to do something different, to be fair. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that. I don't mind going for something different. It will take some getting used to, I'd say. But, why not? Why not go for it? Also, guys, if you are watching, we do encourage you to get involved in the live chat the way that A2 and Peter Griffin have already done. So great to have you back on the show with us, lads. And to anybody watching for the first time, get your comments in. Let us know what you're looking forward to. What bit of GA news maybe stood out to you over the last week since we did our last show on Sunday. But just on a solemn note, Peter here mentions in the comments, said, "Hey lads, just want to express sympathy to the Canning family on the passing of their dad, Sean. May he rest in peace." And I would like to pass on those sympathies as well to the Canning family. Father of Ollie and of Joe, two inter-county legends with Galway. I've never got the pleasure of meeting Ollie, but I have met Joe at the Hurling for Cancer in 2025. I was doing a bit of work for Joe that day. Not for Joe Canning personally, but for Sports Joe. And Joe Canning is an absolute gentleman. Like he stayed until the floodlights were switched off to sign autographs for people that day. Like really, really great guy. And Ollie seems like a gent as well. And to anybody affected by this passing, pass on my deepest sympathies. May you rest in peace.
Exactly. So, I'd like to offer my condolences to everybody in Galway GA, Portona GA, and obviously the Canning family over the passing of Sean. Obviously, Joe and Ollie, fantastic players for Galway down through the years. And, it's always tough losing a parent. So I'll pass on my condolences to Joe and Ollie over the passing of Sean, and may he rest in peace or yesterday go on him.
Yeah, no, absolutely, lads. No, I agree with both you as well. I'd like to pass on my condolences as well. Obviously, very tragic passing, and thoughts are with everyone and everyone in the family and friends and everything else.
Yeah, now yesterday we're on indeed. We are going to now move into the next bit of news. Peter has put it into his second comment. He said lots of debate and discussion on Shamie Flanagan's omission from the Limerick panel, the strike incident, and or some of his media duties, perhaps his undoing. And I think the strike incident that Peter's referring to is that incident where, of course, he hit Niall O'Leary in a place where no man ever wants to be hit. And then he was doing a bit of media work, with BBC and stuff like that when Limerick were no longer in the championship. Now, I always look at that when a player is 33, 34, and I always look at that as being kind of the first indicator that they maybe are testing the waters of retirement, that they're trying to see, like, is there a job here in TV for me if I was to go? But I wasn't expecting that Shamie Flanagan, when I saw him doing it for BBC, I wasn't thinking that he wouldn't be playing for Limerick next year. Matthew, this one really interesting. Already I'm seeing a lot of different opinions. Was he dropped? Did he walk? Has he retired? What's going on?
Well, according to the Irish Independent, Michael Verney, a great guy, obviously wrote the article on this. And take this what you will, lads. This is the article that was written. The Limerick Senior Hurling Panel is undergoing a serious facelift ahead of the 2026 season, with manager John Cúilín understood to have wielded the axe of some high-profile casualties in recent days. Chief among them is Seamus Flanagan, with the 5-time All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship winner not expected to be part of John Cúilín's plans as the treaty bid to bounce back and scale the All-Ireland summit for the first time since 2023. The omission of Flanagan, a 5-time All-Ireland winner, is a surprise on the face of things, but relations had seemingly become strained this year, with the All-Star attackers seeing his game time greatly limited. The 28-year-old was omitted for the Limerick panel for their league clash against Tipperary earlier in the year following the disciplinary incident relating back to an off-the-ball incident against Cork the previous week. Obviously, that's the incident with Niall O'Leary. Flanagan was not officially suspended for his actions, which was caught on video by a spectator, but he spoke during the summer about the striking incident on Rebel defender Niall O'Leary and how it led to him losing touch with Cúilín and the management. So I suppose it probably, judged by that article, it does signify that the relationship between Cúilín and Flanagan broke down. And I think after that incident with Niall O'Leary, I think Cúilín wants kind of his Limerick players to set a certain standard. And Flanagan has been brilliant for Limerick over the last few years. He's been a brilliant full forward, but that kind of behaviour on the pitch was not tolerated at all. And I think Cúilín was absolutely bang on with the action that he took against him. A lot of people might watch this and say, okay, this is a Cork man speaking, but just if you're even a neutral watching that, you're thinking you cannot do that on the pitch. You can't, no matter if you're being videoed or anything like that, you can't do that on the pitch. Not just on a hurling pitch, but you can't do that in the broad daylight. You can't do that in the street. You can't do it. It's as simple as that. And I don't think it shouldn't be an unpopular opinion. It's the wrong thing to do. You just don't go for someone's private part like that with a weapon like a hurler. You don't do it. It's as simple as that. And look, I think Cúilín did the right thing in dealing with it in-house rather than it going out publicly with the authorities, the regulated authorities or whatever. Cúilín dealt with it in-house. I think he dealt with it pretty well. Then Limerick obviously went out the All-Ireland, losing to Dublin in the quarterfinals, and obviously it was a great win for Dublin. But I just feel like, in a way, did that incident in the league set Limerick back a few pegs or whatever. So I think Cúilín was thinking to himself, like, we can't have this trouble in the camp. He did it, remember, with Pat Ryan. He did it with Pat Ryan. As soon as trouble started to brew a bit, he dropped them. And maybe it's the same with Flanagan. Obviously, it's not as clear-cut as that kind of incident a few years ago, but I think the relationship between player and manager has broken down. And look, on the face of it, by the looks of the explanations there, maybe it isn't such a shock after all that he did get dropped.
Yeah, I think when you look back at that incident, there's no doubt about it. That incident where he struck Niall O'Leary, he let himself down in that incident. And any fan, if you take your bias out of it, if player X strikes player Y into an area where no man wants to be struck, that player should be suspended and has let himself down. And I think it does send out a message that Cúilín has a certain standard that he wants this Limerick team to be held to. it reminds me a lot, I have to say, of when Jim McGuinness axed Kevin Cassidy in 2012, like coming into the 2012 season, and then just wouldn't budge on getting a player of that quality back. It was just like, either you stick to what the expectations of this squad are, or you will not be part of this squad. And the reality is, but because all being said, a lot of people are pointing fingers at that incident in the league, and it's not something that definitely isn't the case. But my thing is Matthew, they played Hughes in the Munster Championship. Was it round 2 or round 3? I think round 2, 3.
I think it was round 3 or round 4, actually.
Yeah. But I remember they were unbelievable that day. They looked like they were the beast had been woken up. I remember, like, I titled the pod that week. I titled it "The Empire Strikes Back." It was like they really looked like they were as good as the 2023 version of that Limerick team, and maybe even better, maybe a little bit more refreshed. It looked like when Kilkenny had lost the All-Ireland to Tipperary in 2010 and came back in 2011, arguably better. But what happened between, and Aaron, I'll show this one to you. When we saw Limerick play Cork in the Munster Championship earlier this year and they blew them away like that, what happened between that and losing to Dublin in the quarterfinal, where I know it was an amazing win for them? It was one of my happiest days watching the Dublin hurling team in my life. But the reality is, you cannot tell me that Limerick were at their best. They absolutely were not. They were playing the game, I feel, they were playing the game waiting for Dublin to panic and mess it up. They didn't respect what Dublin were coming with. They played definitely below par. What happened between the Limerick that played Cork in the Munster Championship and blew them away, and the Limerick that went out to Dublin in the quarterfinal after a dreadful performance?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's hard to really know, obviously, what kind of went wrong. It was kind of baffling, really, when you were watching that game from a Limerick perspective. Yeah, it just felt like, to be honest, they were saving themselves in reserve for bigger games for Cork, or I think they might have, I can't remember who I think they might have played Kilkenny maybe in a semi-final had they have come through that. So it felt like maybe they were just saving themselves in reserve a little bit for bigger games, and everything else, and kind of getting themselves ready and prepared and all that. Yeah, it does feel like that. Like, there have been a lot of issues behind the scenes with Limerick hurling in the last couple of years. There have been a lot of issues with players. Different things kind of going on behind the scenes. You did have like the I remember after the Leinster final as well, there was videos of lads, like, you know, hitting slitters, you know, into open fields and everything else, jumping on cars and all the crack. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like maybe I think, yeah, like one of the comments there about Dublin in 2014, it kind of is maybe a little bit similar to that, in the sense of, like, it's a tricky one for John Cúilín, because these are the players who've gotten him to this point. You know, a lot of these players have been so integral in winning 4 All-Irelands in a row, winning 5 Munsters in a row, you know, being so dominant as they were. But I think it gets to that stage where you do need to kind of start bringing through the younger players and everything else. And we saw this with Dublin, that all of a sudden your high-profile players, a lot of them started leaving the panel and everything else, and there was turnover of players. And I think similar is probably going to happen with Limerick now as well, where, you know, a lot of players feel like they should be playing week in, week out when they're not, because the younger players are kind of coming through, and they're kicking up a bit of a fuss because of it. So, you know, like, and I feel like probably after that defeat, because in 2020, last year, like when they lost in the semi-finals to Cork, you could say, oh, well, look, you know, they've given absolutely everything. They won 4 in a row. They won the Munster Championship. They got caught versus Cork. It happens. But after losing to Dublin, combined with losing the Munster final as well, I know it was on penalties. I do think John Cúilín probably is looking at it and thinking, right, you know, if he's going to stick around, he needs to rebuild the team again, and bring through younger players and everything else, and yeah, completely freshen it up. And that's what he looks to be doing, to be fair.
Do you think it will be a completely freshened up, or do you think that it will be maybe 3 players dropped? Like, it would be really interesting to see how many go, because Flanagan won't be there. But then, would Flanagan have definitely started? I mean, you're looking at a full forward line that, in my opinion, this year, if everyone's fit, I think Limerick's full forward line is Gillan, Shane O'Brien, and Peter Casey. I think if everyone's fit, I think that's what they're going with. And I think maybe Flanagan went to Cúilín, and, like, there's also a possibility that Flanagan went to Cúilín and was like, am I starting? Well, then I'm out. And, like, I think it might have been a situation similar to like when Eric Lowndes left the Dublin panel, when Micheál Burns left the Kerry panel a couple of years ago, that like they're a world-class player looking at a team saying, I'm probably not going to get much game time here. I've already won, 5 All-Irelands. I'm off. I'm going to travel the world over the summer. Be interesting to see. And I don't think we'll ever get an outright answer, but we have a lot of comments coming in about this, which I love to see. Dublin's Fair City says, I listened to Flanagan on the GA social criticising Kylie for dropping him for a game after that off-the-ball incident. I remember thinking at the time, surely Kylie won't be happy with this. I mean, thinking about it as well, like he didn't seem to fully grasp how mental it was that he did that to another player on the pitch. Like you shouldn't be doing that. Like simple as. Peter says Brian Cody would have done the same back in the day. And then Flanagan absolutely spoke out of line. You can't criticize a manager like that on a podcast and expect everything to be okay. A2 about that instance said inexcusable carry on, and he doesn't have the excuse of a young fella losing the head for a moment. No place for it. Limerick feel like they're in Dublin. 2014 situation now, a lot of rebuilding needed. Peter says Limerick hurling at a real crossroads. Should Kylie and Kinnerk have gone after the Dubs defeat? All good things and all that. I don't think they should have gone after the Dubs defeat, because that is a shocking way to go. I think they've earned themselves to go out at a better stage than that. A2 says, never seen a Limerick team under Kylie with such a shocking attitude as they had in that quarter-final. Contrast that to Cork's attitude in the semi-final. Yeah, don't want to remember that day. Yeah, I definitely don't want to remember that day. I was depressed out the head leaving Croke Park that day. Dublin Fair City said, usually great teams who dominate for a few years, then lose and come back and win the All-Ireland. Yeah, so I expect this Limerick team to probably win one more. Like in the next decade, I think they'll win one more. I'd be surprised if that's it, but it would be interesting. Tip didn't move on for years and took them half a decade to recover. You have to be ruthless. And then Dublin's Fair City, I couldn't believe how poor Limerick were against Dublin that day with an extra man for 50 minutes. It was a desperate loss for them. And it says Tip winning in 2010, 16, 19 and 25 is a gold return. It's a big topic, isn't it? We could be sitting here talking about this game all day, but it's going to be a lot. But yeah, there's no question about it. Flanagan going sets a bit of a precedent, no question. And Matthew, you've come in clutch. My friends come in clutch. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of the big games from the weekend. And guys, if there's any stories that you would like us to discuss, any stories that you would like us to talk about from the GA world, just throw them in the comments there and we will dive in. So starting off, lads, we have the repeat of the Roscommon Senior Football Championship final. Pádraig Pearses and St. Bridget's going head-to-head on Saturday, November 1st at 2:30 in King and Muffet, Dr. Hyde Park. But I'll go to you, Aaron. The replay of the Roscommon Senior Football Final takes place this Saturday. Obviously, the teams went head-to-head last week. Both teams probably feel like they could have won it. Both teams might feel like they left it behind them. You picked Bridget's to win Connacht. Liam has picked Pádraig Pearses. So I'm going to come to you first for this one. How are you feeling heading into the repeat?
Yeah, it's hard to know really, because like from obviously not having watched the game and everything else, but looking at reports and looking at what a lot of Roscommon fans have been saying and people who watched it, the word on the street feels like Pearses are slight favourites, given how they came back and how they turned it around towards the end versus Bridges, and obviously the late chance from Paul Carey that went wide. So yeah, it feels like a lot of people are kind of tipping Pearses to maybe kind of come through it. Look, I'll still stick with Bridget's and everything else. With some big players and Ben O'Carroll, Bobby Nugent as well. I think I'll go with them to come through it and have enough. But yeah, it's very, very even. And I know for like my own kind of predictions video I was doing a couple of days ago, it's quite annoying that Roscommon final wasn't settled before making that, because making a prediction to win Connacht and then a team loses in a county final, it's one of them, to be fair.
Perfectly reasonable in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as most people are, to be fair. But no, yeah, look, it's a very, very even game. I don't know if it's a draw, if it goes to another replay, if it goes to penalties. I don't know what the story is going to be in regards to that. I feel like
no, I think it's extra time and then penalties.
Surely it's extra time penalties.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but I was thinking that, to be fair, with the fact that we need to kind of move things along here, like. But yeah, don't be surprised if it does go to penalties, lads. Don't be surprised if it does go to penalties. Like, I think the weather this weekend is going to be absolutely brutal in those parts as well. So, this could be a real like 9 each type game or something like that.
Do you know what? Exactly for that reason, I'm going for Pierce's. Exactly for the reason that it's bad weather. I just think they have the Daly. Like, the Daly brothers are absolute pit bulls. Like, they are perfect for this type of game. They are just so tough, so determined. They're warriors. Like, they'd run through a brick wall. And in this type of game, I remember like seeing in the Connacht Championship, especially in those battles against Galway and Mayo, that's when the Daly brothers would really come to the fore for Roscommon. And then when Pádraig Pearses would turn over the likes of Currafin or whatever in the Connacht Championship, the Daly brothers are always to the fore. I think this is the type of game that will let them shine. And I think when Paul Carey up front, I think they have enough up there. Carey tends to come good in these type of games. I remember he was amazing in the Connacht Championship last year, up until obviously the Kildare game where they lost. But I really believe that Pearses will shade this by a point. I just think it's going to be one of them days that will be really tough for Bobby Nugent, Ben O'Carroll to sparkle the way that they would on a clean day. So I'll shade it to Pearses. Matthew, deciding vote. What are you thinking?
Judging by what you're saying about the weather, I agree with you, Seamus. I'm going to go Pearses as well. Bridges have flair players there. Ben O'Carroll and obviously Bobby Nugent and all them. They do have some very, very fantastic individual quality. But I agree with you, Pearses do have dogs. You look at the Dailies there. You look at the way they've got through tough weather conditions. Although it was tough weather conditions in the Connacht final last year and they lost. So So I don't know. But to be honest, if you were to say who's more dog and who's more hungry in these sorts of situations, I would think Pearses possibly are. So I'd go Pearses just slightly so. But then again, as Aaron said, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to penalties. If someone slips like a John Terry and it skews it over the bar or something like that.
Yeah, we never know. This is going to be very, very tough to call. Peter says the grain of rice to Bridget's. So we've 2 for Bridget's. We have 2 for Pearses. It'll be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. Maybe we'll ring Liam, even though he's working, and get him to make the... Actually, we know who Liam's going with. He's going with Pearses, so we'll make that 3-2. Peter says Kilo, Emmett Og against Summerhill. Another interesting tussle. Summerhill have former Kildare hurler Paul Dively on the management team. Kilo seemed to be a real force for a small rural area. Grain of rice to Summerhill is what Peter is saying. Lads, that looks like a really good clash as well. Aaron, I'll go to you first. Kilo against Summerhill. What are we thinking for this one?
Yeah, look, I think Summerhill will definitely be the favourites. Like, there's no question of that, with players like Owen Frayne, Conor Frayne, within their ranks. Look, I do agree as well. Like, Kilo, I don't know a huge amount about them, but from looking at scoring and everything else, Cian Farrelly looks to be a big player. Scored 1-2 in the final. Mark Hughes got a goal as well. I think I think Summerhill should be too strong. I think we've seen though through history with Longford clubs, in particular Mullinachta, that you can never quite write them off and sleep on them and everything else. And look, club championships, there's some magic in club championships in early rounds in Leinster. Sometimes you get some mad results. A lot of these teams are very even. But I think Summerhill should just have a bit more. So I would see them to come through probably by 3 or 4 points.
Jack Nolte here weighing in, says Kilo, a rural area, but has a big pick. No Longford club has won a game since Mullinachta's Leinster win in 2018. So obviously there's time to be filled up there, and it'll be very, very interesting to see if Kilo can do that. Interesting enough, I know that obviously last year, over the last couple of years, I think I have to be fair, Meath clubs have done a little bit better, but over the last 10 years, Meath clubs haven't necessarily done that well in the Leinster Championship. So maybe if there's a shock to come, maybe Kilo can turn Summerhill over here. And the Longford Championship is very competitive, so it'll be very interesting to see how these two match up against each other. Switching over to hurling, but remaining on the Saturday, we have the Galway Championship final. St. Thomas is going up against Loughrea at 6 p.m. in Pearse Stadium, Saturday, November 1st. this is going to be a really, really interesting one. We obviously have St. Thomas's, who were the All-Ireland Club champions, dethroned in Galway last year, getting the opportunity now in the Galway final to get their crown back off the team that took it. Loughrea, this is going to be some clash matchup.
It is, yeah. And just in a general sense, I think the hurling championship, we talk about all the stories of the football and how our predictions have gone awry. I do think the football has had some crazy storylines, but I think the hurling has gone very much the script so far, and this championship has epitomised that. Loughrea, the winners last year, St. Thomas's All-Ireland champions 2 years ago. Two sides have very good abundance of talented players there, and I think if either side win it, I don't think either side anybody would be shocked over it. If anything, I think Thomas's might have the edge though. Loughrea, they were very good against Davina last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, and they did prove that they do have some excellent players, the likes of Anthony Burns in the forward line, for instance, and obviously the Cúilíns as well are very, very talented players there. But you look at St. Thomas's, not just the likes of the Coonies, but they do have some absolutely excellent players at club level. The likes of Victor Manso, Conor Forward's a very, very talented player. So I'd probably tip it to St. Thomas's to win the game. And then again, the prize is big because they're one game away. If they either side, whoever wins this is one game away from the All-Ireland final as well. So it is a big prize and offer. It's almost 2-1 Galway championship and nearly a one-way ticket into an All-Ireland final. Obviously, there's the Ulster champions to come for the winners there. So I think St. Thomas's might get over the line, but it's a very, very tight one to call. And as I said, I don't think anybody will be shocked either way, whoever wins this game.
It's going to be an absolute cracker. Peter says here, the two current heavyweights of Galway hurling, Conor Cooney, on fire so far this year. But Peter also nails his colours to the mast and says Thomas's by 3. I mean, it's one of the oldest storylines in the book, isn't it, Aaron, of like a champion who's been champion for ages, losing the title to a new team and then getting a chance to go and get that title back off the team that took it off them. If Loughrea can beat St. Thomas's, does that signal a completely new era for Galway hurling?
It's hard to know really. It would be a huge surprise, I think, considering what St. Thomas achieved a couple of years ago. St. Thomas have always just been a weird team. Like I remember they lost Dunloy a good couple of years ago as well. Like they've huge amount of talented players from, as we said, Conor and Gavin Cooney and a few of the other lads like the Burks as well. Like they've huge amounts of skillful and brilliant hurlers, but they probably, I know they've won that All-Ireland, but they might feel like they probably haven't achieved what they should have achieved based off of some of the players that they have and everything else. So I'd agree with Matthew. I think I would see them to edge it and come through. If they were to be beaten though, yeah, I think it kind of would open people up a little bit, because I think last year you could understand that, like how many All-Ireland champions have we seen crash out in their own championship the next year, and everything else, haven't achieved what they achieved and the year that they had the season previous. So it definitely would be a surprise to see them go out, considering how dominant they were for so long. Like, what did they win? I think they won 5 in a row, wasn't it, in Galway before they eventually got beat. So yeah, I think it would signify something. And look, I think as well, if Loughrea were to come through it, they'd be a team no one's really spoken about all year, but here they are in a semi-final against the Ulster champions, which, look, we can't sleep on that, because the last time an Ulster champion played a Galway team, they won. Do you know what I mean? So we can't write that off either. But there is, all of a sudden, Loughrea will be kind of gone very quietly under the radar.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and this is just because of the talent that is on display, but most eyes will tend to be on the side of the draw that the Munster team is on. I liked it because, you're talking there, you could have it as a Ballygunner, or if Ballyhale Shamrocks actually get out of Leinster. Like Nafina as well, reigning All-Ireland champions, I think. But Munster usually is the one people are watching out for the most, along with the Kilkenny champions, given that's where the most All-Irelands are. But you have to think about the fact that it's like what you were saying there, Aaron, about how many All-Ireland champions come back and crash out. This year, Sarsfield's the dominant All-Ireland Camogie champions, gone. Errigal Kieran, who made it to the final last year, gone. They didn't even win the thing, and they're gone. Cúilín, who were the All-Ireland football champions, they're gone. The only ones that are still standing that were in the final last year is your Kilkerran Clonburns, who won the All-Ireland is your Nafinas. And the thing is that Nafina hung on for dear life against Lucan. So it's very common for the defending champions to nearly be caught in their county and then to make it out and to do a little bit better in the provincial. So it'll be very interesting to see if Thomases can get through this. Then will they feel like they're kind of getting back up onto their throne? Because when you look at the talent there, there's no reason why this golden period for the club should be finished. As Peter was saying there, Conor Cooney is on fire. Aina Burke as well. You remember that point that he scored to win the All-Ireland for Thomas's. McDara McDonagh was on commentary for TG Carr. One of the best bits of commentary I've heard, when he just went, lad. Or he just went, stop, or something, I think it was. Stop. Yeah. In Annam Day. It was, one of the best bits of commentary I've heard in a long, long time. But, predictions, boys. I'm going for Thomas's.
Yeah, great, yeah.
Thomas's.
Very good. Okay, Matthew, I won't come to you for this next one, obviously, because you yourself are involved in the Munster Championship. But Aaron, I will go to you for the clash of Na Piarsaigh of Limerick against Ballygunner of Waterford. What a clash this one is going to be. When you're looking at history, you're looking at pedigree, you're looking at big names. What a clash this is going to be between Na Piarsaigh and Ballygunner. Two Munster giants going head to head this weekend.
Yeah, look, it's probably the game of the weekend, maybe outside of county finals and everything else. I think this will be, absolutely explosive. Remember a couple of years ago, they went to extra time when they played each other. Like, they've had some titanic battles, both Na Piarsaigh and Ballygunner, which is a reflection as well of how good they've been as well, because they've been in the Munster Championship and gotten to play each other a couple of times, which can be quite rare for clubs to do. It's going to be huge, absolutely huge. It's going to be interesting to see Ballygunner, they have been caught a good couple of times in Munster in recent years. Last year against SARS. I know in the years previous they came through Munster, and one of the years they went on to win the All-Ireland, I think in 22. But they even before that, there was a couple of times there where they were getting caught and they were slipping up. And I feel like there is quite a gap between the Waterford final and the Munster Championship. Do you know what I mean? Like, Na Piarsaigh have played a lot more recently. They've probably played more competitive games as well. Like, the games have been closer. As opposed to Ballygunner, who seem to just cruise through Waterford from what I can see. So that does seem to be a bit of a benefit. It feels like nearly Ballygunner don't really nearly hit their best sometimes until they actually get out of Munster. Now they lost to St. Thomas a couple of years ago in an All-Ireland semi-final, but that was via penalties. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they didn't really lose the game as such. So it's going to be hugely, hugely interesting. William O'Donoghue in and around the middle for Na Piarsaigh. You've obviously got the explosiveness of Desi Hutchinson for Ballygunner, Mikey Matney, Ian Kenny, Stephen O'Keefe in goal. Like, so many county stars on the field for both teams. And you have the feeling that I'm kind of glad this has been played this weekend as well. Just for the sense that I feel like in a couple more weeks the weather will have set in a bit more and it could be a bit more low scoring and everything else. Now we'll see. I think the weather might be a bit atrocious this weekend, so hopefully it doesn't affect the game too much. But I think it's going to be an absolute cracker, and I can see extra time all over it. But I do think Ballygunner will just have a little bit more. But this is one of them games that if you check the score, you're watching it and the Piarsaigh win, and you're not that surprised either. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you think the key battles are going to be in this one?
I think the big one really for Na Piarsaigh will be stopping Desi Hutchinson, stopping his kind of influence. He has been a different player over the last couple of years for Ballygunner than Waterford. You know what I mean? Like, he's been kind of quiet with Waterford the last couple of years, in particular since Liam Cahill left. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but with Ballygunner, he's just incredible. Like his skillfulness, how direct he is. Like, he just gets his head down and runs and weaves in now players, scores goals, points, does the whole lot. So that's going to be a very interesting one to see who picks him up and how they stop him. But at the same time, you have Pat Fitzgerald as well, going in the other corner. There's going to be a lot of interesting matchups, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute cracker. The game's live as well on TG Carr on Sunday, so I know I'll be tuning in for sure. It's going to be a game that explodes the Provincial Championship into life. I'll be tuning in on TG Carr on Sunday for sure, and you're looking at it in this regard, though. I just wonder, looking at what Ballygunner had to come through in Waterford, where the final was an absolute cakewalk and they hit 235 and barely got out of second gear to win the final, versus what Nip Piercy had to do to get out of Limerick. You would wonder, Aaron, which route would you rather have to this game? I mean, it's a fairly obvious answer. You would rather have been tested the way that Nip Piercy had been tested.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I know Ballygunner would have continued training and everything else, but you know when there's a big gap in terms of the level of training and everything else, and it would nearly kind of be like a pre-season kind of preparation for this. You know what I mean? There would have been challenge games, of course, behind closed doors and everything else. But again, you're not going to find teams with the standard of an Appearshig, because a lot of them are still left in the All-Ireland. Do you know what I mean? And what other clubs are going to want to play challenge games when they've been knocked out? You know what I mean? So they wouldn't have been playing teams of their own standard. Maybe it just would have been Ballygunner A against the B team. Maybe that's where you get the challenges. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you'd rather be an Appearshig coming into it. But look, to be fair to Ballygunner though, like, it's not like this is the first time they've experienced this coming into Munster. This has been a regular occurrence over the last 10 years, more or less. So they'll have known how to prepare for this. They'll have done things in the past that would have worked for them. And I think, yeah, the big thing will be learning from, of course, what happened against SARS last year and previous seasons as well,
Yeah, I think the SARS game would have taught them a lot in terms of the way that SARS just put them away when it came to the crunch period of the game. There's no question about it. This game is going to be, in my opinion, the game of the weekend. Nip Piercy going up against Ballygunner. It has absolutely everything that you could want. Star names all over the field, the likes of Will O'Donoghue, Desi Hutchinson, and it's got the top spot at Sunday, and I'll definitely be tuning in. Yeah, I've no idea how it's going to go. I think there's more pressure on Ballygunner, because I feel like the way that they've kind of let the last couple of years slip through their fingers and not win All-Irelands with the undoubted level of talent that they have in their squad. I especially think 2 years ago when they lost to Thomas's in the semi-final on penalties, and then Thomas's went on to win the All-Ireland. I think that one stands out for Ballygunner as one where they could have won that one. And I feel like, especially for the players that are now in their mid-30s, it is crunch time. Like, if you're going to win another All-Ireland, it has to be now. And I feel like Nip Piercy don't have that same pressure. So how will that play off? Again, only time will tell. If I had to predict, I said Ballygunner from the start that they would win the Munster Championship. So I have to stick with Ballygunner. But this is a very, very nervy game, because Nip Piercy have everything that they need in order to turn Ballygunner over. So only time will tell, but I'll stick with Ballygunner. A2 here saying Ballygunner have not had a competitive game in ages, and Nip Piercy had to scrap to get out of Limerick. And our good pal Liam said, howdy lads, sorry couldn't make it on tonight. My one contribution to this episode is the prediction that Nip Piercy is going to knock out Ballygunner. Well, he's come in with a swinger, come in with a haymaker. That Ballygunner are going to be gone.
You'll have to explain that now on Monday. Sunday, sorry.
And on top of that, Nip Piercy could capitalise on the Ballygunner layoff, but Ballygunner are a different class, going for an epic draw, and Ballygunner to sneak it after extra time. It's not a bad prediction there, Peter. I do think that if Ballygunner are going to get through, I do back that Nip Piercy will have pushed them all the way. We're going to move back across then to Leinster football. We briefly touched on Summerhill against Calo Young Emmets. I take it we're all going for Summerhill, are we? Yeah. So moving then to Old Lecklen of Carlow going up against Port Arlington of Laois. Also, this one is on the Saturday. It's in Cullen Park. This one, Old Lecklen, surprise winners in Carlow, going up against the usual suspects now over the last few years in Laois. How does it match up in the Provincial Championships, in your opinion, when a surprise champion comes up against a team that's been there for the last few years? Matthew, I'll come to you first.
Well, I think we've seen this story before. Obviously with Tinnahealy, I think, if memory serves me correctly, Tinnahealy played Port Arlington last year for Wicklow, and Tinnahealy beat them. So I don't think Port Arlington liked the ending of that story, I'll be honest. But this year, I think they should be more seasoned. Look, they were lucky to get over the line against Courtwood. some people didn't think it was a penalty for that goal in the replay in the Laois final. But Port Arlington still have some fantastic players. And you look at the side of the draw they're on, with great respect to the sides there. You look at Athy, you look at Summerhill, even Nate Marchand. Like, they wouldn't be like an Ardee St. Mary's, or they wouldn't be like Rados or Dunshaughlin or Naas. They would not be like those sides. So I think this is a huge opportunity for Port Arlington. If they don't take this opportunity now to get to a Leinster final, I don't think they'll ever will at this stage at their development. So I think they'll be gunning to get over the line this one. Look, O'Lecklen, of course, they could cause a shock. They are a very good team in Carlow. The Bambricks are in that team. They have some fantastic players, and they did cause a shock in Carlow. But I think Port Arlington are more seasoned, and I think that's when the cream rises to the top at this stage of the championship. If you are more seasoned in the provincial championships, you usually get over the line. I think Port Arlington are that. I think they won't do the same mistakes as they did against Tillahely last year, and they'll get over the line this time.
Interestingly enough, Peter says O'Lecklen could well win this. Port Arlington jury still kind of out. They just got over Courtwood. Do you know what? I'll go for O'Lecklen. Genuinely, like, I do agree with Peter. I think that, and I'm not confident in that prediction. Like, Port Arlington absolutely could run away with this. But I just feel like they huffed and puffed to get through Laois, and they aren't looking as good as they have done in previous years, obviously with the exception of last year where they went out in this exact stage. But I just think, like, I don't see them making a burst the same way I maybe fancied them to do so in previous years. And I think O'Lecklen, with the enthusiasm that they're going to come with, given that this is their first time in this stage as a group, I feel like they might have the enthusiasm, the kind of play with that sense of abandon that, like, maybe they might just take the game to them. In that kind of, like, fuck it, like, let's just go for this. Like, we've already won the Carlow Championship. You know, we've already had an amazing year. Let's see how far we can go. Whereas I feel like Port Arlington have been here. It's not as special. And they huffed and puffed to get past Courtwood. So you know what? I'm going to go for O'Lecklen. Aaron, you have to cast them both then. Who's going to do it?
Yeah, not to spoil the kind of old Leckland kind of love and parade here, but yeah, I probably would go with Port as well. But I do think as well, do you know what? Like, it is one of them with Port where they've been on the go for a couple of weeks on the run now, haven't they? With the replay and everything else, so like their legs could go a little bit. Old Leckland will be coming in fresh. They've Mikey and Sean Bambrick in the side, so they've a couple of kind of notable Carlow players within their ranks. And yeah, there definitely is the possibility. I think it will be very close. I think Port might nick it maybe by a point or two. They might just have a little bit more kind of experience within the ranks to kind of come through it. And look, obviously losing to Tillahely last year, like, I feel like when that happens, you know, that can happen once, but for it to happen again, do you know what I mean? I feel like they'll be on their guard a bit more because that happened last season. So I do think they'll come through it, but yeah, you know, there could be a shock here, to be fair.
There absolutely could be. Matthew, I'm going to go to you for the next Leinster Championship game. That is a tie going up against Bolton Glass, and this one is on Sunday. Now, like it or not, there's a lot more attention on a tie due to their celebrations after beating Naas in the final. They're going up against Bolton Glass, who had an incredible victory in the Wicklow Senior Football Final. Who do you fancy in this one?
It's a very tough one to call, simply because, number one, obviously it's the video that reverberated online. There might be a sense of karma with a tie. The Gaelic gods might cast a spell on them or something like that. And number two as well, the game's in Aughrim, which is notoriously a very, very tough place to go for a visitor. Even though it is spiritually Bolton Glass's home, it's Wicklow's home, but still, it's Fortress Aughrim. It's named by that for a reason. But what I will say about Bolton Glass, look at their final against Carney Wemmets. Their top scorer was their goalkeeper, Mark Jackson. Now, I know he's been scouted by an NFL, and he is a very good player in goal, and has been very good for Wicklow over the last few years. But he got 10 points out of Bolton Glass's 120 the last game.
Crazy.
So I don't know, but the thing is, Athy have been warned over that. If Athy have been taking this game seriously, they would have been warned no two-pointed efforts from beyond the arc from a free, because Mark Jackson will just strut up the pitch and put it over the bar. because obviously he has that in his locker. You've seen the videos with the NFL and things like that as well. There are other players, of course. There is John McGrath, who got 1-1 in the Wicklow final. Tommy Keogh got 3 points. Adam McHugh got 2 points. They're all in the full forward line. So they do have some decent enough players there as well. So they can't be slipped on too much. But obviously a tie have the more notable players. I think the noticeable players in many ways is Kevin Feely in midfield and Niall Kelly up in the forwards. I'm going to stick with the try and test that I'm going to go for a tie to win this game, but they have been forewarned. If they concede frees outside the arc, I think Mark Jackson will eat them up. But a tie shouldn't be like, surely with all the people in the backroom team and things like that, you should be looking at opponents and things like that, saying that, okay, this is their threat. You can't be doing this. And I think a tie will have to cop onto that. If they cop onto that, I think they'll go over the line.
Yeah, I think that we have to take into account, like, if Naas had won that Kildare final, we would all be picking Naas to win this game. A tie have beaten Naas, beaten them fair and square. They showed no class after the game with the chant about Philly McMahon, but they won that Kildare final fair and square. So you have to probably shade it to them. But I think if there's a game that I'm looking at this weekend and saying, where can I find a potential upset? Where could a bet on the underdog be worthwhile? I think this game, because Ockram, as you mentioned, notoriously difficult to go. And it is a champion and a tie again who will be in uncharted waters. And you look at the scrapes that Cúilín had even last year, in Leinster before going on to win the All-Ireland. That's a super Cúilín team and they nearly got caught in Leinster. So there's no doubt about it. These provincial grounds and these provincial ties, they do lend to upsets happening. And the club championship is notorious for that. It's called the toughest for a reason. And Peter, interestingly, has gone for Baltinglass. Baltinglass to give Athy a lesson and win by 4. Aaron?
Agreed, yeah. Yeah,
agreed.
I think Baltinglass are going to win it as well, to be honest with you. And look, I know some people might look at, maybe you're kind of leaning on your heart a little bit after what happened and what was said and everything else. But to be honest with you, there's more reasons for that, to be honest. I think firstly, we were kind of mentioned Tinahely a little bit earlier, but Wicklow champions have been causing surprises in the last couple of years. Remember Blessington bet Mullinyochta a couple of seasons ago as well.
Ratnew beat St. Vincent's.
Yeah, like especially in these early rounds, like they are, going to Ockram, like it is such a tough place, to going to go to. And even look, I know Mark Jackson scored 10 points the other day. Maybe that kind of takes the shine away from the forwards, but to have a player of that capability, like I think 3 or 4 of them were 2-pointers or something of that nature that you kicked from frees. Like, so to have a player like that within their ranks, do you know what I mean? There probably isn't going to be a huge amount of players on the field who will have that ability to kick those type of points. In Ockram as well, in his own backyard, he knows the ground inside and out. So I think that'd be huge. Tommy Keogh is a good player as well from reading reports, and they do have a player within their team called John McGrath as well. So obviously not the same one, I should say, but if you have a player called John McGrath on your team, I think that's a good enough reason as well to back you. Plays in around the similar position as well. So, and then I think as well, a tie, like having won the Kildare Championship, there will be a bit of scrutiny on them. There will be a bit of pressure on them, and I just think Baltinglass might just catch them. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting one either way. Peter says that the wet, tough forecast will definitely suit the Wicklow men. This would be very, very interesting to see. And A2 says if Rory Beggan was doing that, we'd all be singing his praises. Absolutely. Like Mark Jackson for years has been doing this for Wicklow and for his club, Baltinglass. Moving on, we are going up north for this one. Sean O'Leary, Newbridge of Derry. They're going up against Dunloy, Cúilín of Antrim in the Ulster Senior Championship match. I'm going to come to you for this one. Sean O'Leary's Newbridge have quietly put 2 Derry titles back-to-back, which is no mean feat when you consider you've got Glen in there, you've got Slot Neal in there, you've got Maherafelt in there, some brilliant teams in the Derry Championship. Sean O'Leary, Newbridge, yet aren't being talked up that much for the Ulster Championship, however. Like everybody's looking at Kilcoo, everybody's looking at Scottstown. Like no one's really talking about Sean O'Leary, Newbridge, and yet they've put 2 Derry titles back-to-back when I mentioned they're the clubs that they're going up against. How come, number one, they're being slept on? And then on top of that, Dunloy, Cúilín, they present a serious challenge as well. Super impressive win in the Antrim Championship. What do you think this one is going to go like?
In terms of underestimating Sean O'Leary's Newbridge, I think it's because many people don't recognise them because a lot of people watch senior football in the intercounty stage, and that's fine. They watch the likes of David Clifford and they watch the likes of Colin Baskell and all these players, Strutter stuff, which is fine. But you look at Sean O'Leary's Newbridge team, you have Eamon Young there, you have Oisin Doherty, you have the McGrogans there as well, you have Mark Doherty, you have unrecognisable players, but the reason why some of them are unrecognisable because they were on the Derry minor teams that won All-Irelands in the past 2 seasons. They are very good players. Eamon Young, I remember, was scoring points from play for fun for Derry in the minor grade. Oisin Doherty is another brilliant player. Scored 4 points in the final against Macrofeld. Another guy who's probably unrecognisable to me, but look at the final, he had a very good game. Conor McAteer, he scored 5 points, 1 2-pointer in the final against Macrofeld. Mark Doherty in the centre forward position as well. Conor Doherty, who is recognisable, to be fair, by many, I'd imagine, for anybody that watches Derry for years. He's at midfield. He scored 1 point the last day as well. You have Conor McGrogan as well in midfield. You have Padraig McGrogan at wing back. You have another McGrogan at half back as well, and Callum McGrogan. Now, I seen them, I think it was Carol Kane or somebody else, an Ulster journalist anyway that was talking about this, saying there's a lot of family ties in this team. The Youngs, the McGrogans, the Dohertys, all them names are together because they're actually related, whether they're cousins or whether they're brothers and things like that as well, which I think is absolutely great chemistry to have in the team because you know what each of the player is going to do on the pitch and you know what they're exactly going to do. So I think they are being slept on. And if you look at the details around this Sean O'Leary's Newbridge team, not just that they've won 2 Derry championships in a row, but the family ties, the Derry minors that they do have some excellent players in that team. As regards Dunloy, the Antrim champions, yes, Cargan could have pulled off a surprise or two in terms of performances over the last few years. But the frank reality is over the last few seasons, the Antrim champions haven't really had a sniff of much. So, and this is the Dunloy team that won their first Antrim football championship in 89 years. So, yes, Keelan Malloy seems to be a very good player around the middle for Dunloy this year. But I think with the likes of Sean O'Leary's Newbridge there, the fact they had an Ulster championship game against Clonairon, which they challenged very, very well last season, I may add. I think that kind of game, yes, they lost, but I think it will stand to them. And I think they'll go on and win this game as well in this day as well. I think they face Mahon in the quarterfinal if they win this game. And you know what? Mahon are new to this competition, obviously win their first ever Armagh Senior Football Championship. So who's to say Sean O'Leary's Newbridge can make a run at it? Like at the semi-final stage, then you're facing Naomh Conaill or Scottstown, who, yes, they're decent teams on paper, but they haven't really proved in an Ulster Championship over the last 2 seasons. So I think a lot of people might be sleeping on Sean O'Leary's Newbridge, and you have to remember, yes, let's play devil's advocate for a bit from a Newbridge point of view. Like, if Watergraham's Glen or Shotneel were in this situation, we'd say easy win, or they get to an Ulster final, or they get to a semi-final. I think Sean O'Leary's Newbridge are being slept on. They do have some good young players. They do have family ties. I think they'll get over Dunloy first of all. And don't be surprised if they cause a shock or two in the Ulster Championship.
I agree with you. I think that they're flying nicely under the radar, and they've got a big test this weekend going up against Dunloy. But I think if they can get through that, I think they'll be very, very hard to stop. And I think they're flying nicely under the radar. I think if they get through this by like 5 points or something, it'll do them the world of good because they won't be talked about, I think, as a team that can topple Kilcoo, but I think they can. I think when you see how Kilcoo were turned over by Errigal last year, I think that on the right day, O'Leary Newbridges might be able to turn them over. Sticking with football, Aaron, we've got a county final this weekend in the Leinster Championship that we haven't yet discussed. That's down in Wexford. Shelmalier is going up against Castletown Lean Mellows. That's on Sunday, November 2nd at 3:30 in Wexford Park. Very interesting one, this one. And interesting as well, how does it suit Wexford that, you know, that we're at the county final stage and everybody else is going to be kicking their tires and getting into provincial action?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because usually in Wexford, like I know with the hurling championship in previous years, they would have their winners.
Like, system,
ages and ages ago. So it feels like now they've kind of gone the opposite. Do you know what I mean? And kind of maybe flipped it the other way around. Yeah, I suppose maybe in one way it's good because you win this game and then you go straight into the next one and you kind of just get over and done. Well, I suppose, yeah, it's just one of them. If the players are consulted on what they would rather. Would you rather a kind of a long layoff and then play in a provincial club championship, or would you rather just have your final and then kind of have, a week's break? But yeah, should be an interesting game. And Owen O'Gara is still involved with Shell Maliers, so that'll be interesting to see obviously how he gets on there. There could be a potential storyline brewing there. I think the Wexford champions are playing the Dublin champions as well. So if Shell Maliers come through,
Miss O'Gara.
Yeah, Owen O'Gara going up against Ballybowden, which would be kind of an interesting one, to be fair. So like, it's obviously a hard one to call. I certainly wouldn't be an expert on Wexford football, but I know Shamaliers, they've been one of them that they've been tipped quite regularly in Wexford in recent seasons. They haven't always come through. They've slipped up quite, on quite a couple of occasions. So that'll be an interesting one to come through. But I'd certainly like to see them go through. So we'll go with Shamaliers for the win there.
Very good. We're going to go down to Munster now and back to yourself, Matthew. Just before I get to the game, then I'm going to ask you to discuss Limerick Senior Football semi-finals. Sees Dare going up against Mungret St. Paul's and Newcastle West going up against Father Casey's. Both of them games are on Saturday, with the first one at 1 and the second one at 3. And then the Tipperary semi-final is Clonmel Commercials going up against Upper Church Drombane. That one is on the Saturday as well. But on the Sunday, we have the Waterford Senior Football final at 2 p.m. between Rathgormack and the Nair. Two recent winners. Who's going to take this one?
Yeah, it's a quite interesting game between these two. The Nair are prone to cause a shock in terms of Munster Championships. They have beaten some pretty notable county sides over the teams, champions in a specific county over the last few seasons. And let's not forget, Rathgormack really tested Dr. Crokes last year in the Munster Championship. And that was Dr. Crokes' team that tested Errigal Kieran all the way. And Errigal Kieran competed well in the All-Ireland final. So Waterford inter-county football notoriously isn't very good, and I don't think anybody could disagree with that. They're near the bottom of Division 4 for a reason, and obviously if Fitzgerald has gone back, they're best of luck to Eefy on that. But you look at the Waterford Club Championship, they do tend to churn out some very, very good club teams. The likes of the Rathgormacks have the Murrays and not the Murrays, the Currys. They have some very good players there. Obviously the Nair from the 4 Mile Water Club, they do have some decent, talented kind of footballers there as well. The likes of Jamie Barron, for example. I think he's still playing football. Or he might, well, the thing is, 4 Mile Water are long gone in the Waterford Hurling Championship, so I'd imagine he'll throw on the boots and play football. But that's an inter-county kind of experienced player to have. I know Jamie Barron is recognisable as a hurler, but he is a decent enough footballer as well. It's a difficult one to call this. I'd say I'm going to tip it to Rathgormack simply because they tested Dr. Crokes last year in the Munster Championship. But honestly, this game could go either way. And the winners of this play Aero Guinness in the Munster quarterfinals. And yeah, it's a serious prize on offer.
It certainly is. We are going to move then on to Camogie next. And Aaron, I'm going to come to you for this one because, interestingly enough, the two teams that myself and yourself picked to win the All-Ireland are on opposite sides of the draw in the Leinster Camogie Senior semi-finals. We have Owlet Dabala going up against St. Vincent's. That's in Owlet Dabala at 2:30 on the Sunday. And then we have Beer going up against the team that I picked in Dixborough. And that one is in St. Brendan's Park in Beer at 2 p.m. So interestingly, both teams that we've picked are making very, very difficult away trips in order to get to the Leinster final. Interestingly, the fact that it is really interesting to me that those games are being played very much in the backyard of one of the teams. How much of an advantage can that be? And if one of them is going to be caught, I know you're going to say Dixborough, but how likely is it that one of them is caught?
Well, look, we only have to look at club championships this year to see the amount of shocks and surprises that there have been. Do you know what I mean? And there could very well be a shock this weekend in terms of these games, especially with Ullart having the home advantage, Burr obviously as well. But to be honest with you, like from seeing Vincent's, I think they will be too strong to come against Ullart Dabala. I think they'll be far too good there. And Dixborough as well. They have kind of come through these games in recent seasons when they've kind of been pushed to the pin of their collar. So I think they will have enough to get through Burr. I don't think we'll see a shock in either of these two games. I won't be surprised if one of them goes to the wire, or we get extra time or something like that. But I still think both of them will have enough to come through. I know maybe some would probably look at Ullart Bala maybe, and St. Vincent's. That's probably the one where maybe you could see a surprise, to be honest with you. That's probably the more likely one than the other one. But I'd still back Vincent's to narrowly come through it.
Well, Ullart have had huge success in the last few years, and not necessarily the last 2 or 3, but recent enough All-Ireland winners, obviously in 2020, or was it 2021, sorry, with Ursula Jacob was still playing. Obviously players that are key to that side now aren't what they used to be, or they've left the team. So it's a new team. Vincent's, to me, in the Dublin final looked good. They just looked incredibly physical. Like, they really were just, their half-back line especially, Emma O'Byrne, Abby Flynn on the wings, there was just no getting past them. So that will be really, really interesting to see how Ullart match up. Dixborough, on the other hand, obviously won the title back off Pilltown. Like, that one does send out a message that they have unfinished business. So my confidence in them winning the All-Ireland goes up. I do think they'll both get through it, but then that Leinster final between the two of them, what a clash that could be. Vincent's have won 2 out of the last 3 Leinsters. The only one that they didn't win, Dixborough won, and Dixborough pushed on to win the All-Ireland, and Vincent's haven't managed to do that. So what a clash that could be between the two of them if it is to take place. Big shout as well up in Ulster, Slotneil going up against Lochiel Shamrocks. I think we all agree, lads, we all picked Lochiel to win Ulster, but I think if someone's going to stop them, Slotneil would probably be top of the list up there. Peter says, Ullart, some club, home of Martin Storey, Wexford captain 1996, and the best GA moustache ever. Martin Storey, one of the biggest gentlemen I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. Met him a couple of times, and he is just an absolute gent. I had him on the podcast about 2 years ago now. Just one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. Genuine, like soil of the earth GA man. Like, he's just absolute top guy. Moving on then to the LGFA taking place on Saturday, we have a huge clash. Kilmacud Crokes going up against Dunshaughlin at 2 p.m. on the Saturday. Like, right from the start in the Leinster Championship, I looked at this and said Kilmacud Crokes are my favourites to win the Leinster Championship. The players that they have in there, the likes of Ava Rutledge, Alva Davern, Aoife Kane. But I think if anybody's to stop them, probably look towards either a Dunshaughlin or a Dunboyne. Dunshaughlin have come out with the Meath Championship. They have had a stranglehold over that championship now for the last few seasons. They have players in there, the likes of Niamh Gallagher. They are really, really strong as well. Matthew, who are you fancying in this one?
It's a very tough one to call. I know I back Kilmacud Crokes to win the Leinster Championship, and what I will say, for once, I probably am up for Dublin Club because there is a Cork player on the Kilmacud team, of course, Niamh Cotter. Best of luck to her from Beara, obviously, and she is from Southern Star direction as well. So obviously, best of luck to Niamh in that game. But from like Kilmacud, you mentioned there, they have some very, very good players in and around the team. The Alva Daverns, the Ava Rutledges, the Kate Murrays. They do have some very, very good players. But I look at Dunshaughlin, and people from Dunshaughlin have been contacting me for good reason. They do have some absolutely excellent players. They do have a very good full forward line, though. Ciara Gorman, Niamh McEntee, and Maeve Byrne. Obviously, Niamh Gallagher is in this team as well. They do have some excellent players. And as well as that, they're doing without Niamh O'Sullivan, who's not available this season. The most legendary figure in the club. So for that, to win the Meath Championship the way they did without their leader in many ways on the pitch is absolutely brilliant, and fair play to Dunshaughlin for that. This is a very, very tough game to call. I think this isn't an unpopular opinion. Whoever wins this game will win the Leinster LGFA Championship, considering who's on the other side of the draw. Yes, Middletown have the likes of Sarah Dillon and their team from Westmeath, but I think Dunshaughlin or Kilmacud will be the main team to trouble the Leinster Championship. Like a lot of people from Dunshaughlin won't like me for this, considering the amount of praise that has come to me on DMs about this Dunshaughlin team and how good they've been throughout the whole season. I still can't back against Crokes. They are a very, very good side in Dublin. They're one of the All-Ireland favourites. But I would not be shocked at the slightest if Dunshaughlin turned them over. It's going to be a tough game to call.
Yeah, I think if there's one team to do it in Leinster, for me, it is Dunshaughlin. But just having commentated on that Dublin final between Sylvester's and Crokes, I witnessed firsthand what Sylvester's threw at them. They threw absolutely everything at them. And the players that they have, the likes of Kate Sullivan, the likes of Niamh McAvoy, Danielle Lawless, they threw the kitchen sink and more at Crokes. Crokes just like the champions that they are, they just refused to give up. And that game was played in a storm. So that was Storm Amy that was there that day. So crazy stuff. And Crokes just didn't budge. They're not, and they're dominant over the Dublin Championship now. 4 titles back to back to back to back. It's pretty hard to see past them in the Leinster Championship, in my opinion. Moving down then to Munster. Aaron, your pick to win the Munster Championship, the Munster Senior LGFA Championship, could come true this weekend. Comer Rangers are in that final, and they're going up against Southern Gales. You're one step away from getting the provincial pick right. The first one that any of us have got right all year. Actually, if Thomas's win, a couple of us get it right. But, I mean, it is the Galway Championship, not the Connacht Championship that we're predicting correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose you have to celebrate the wins when they come, I suppose. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. Especially after what they did to Ballymacarbery. They absolutely wiped the floor with them, really. In that final. And that was, I expected them to win. Obviously, predicted them to win and everything else, and predicted them to come through Munster and win the All Ireland. But to have won as convincingly as that was a big surprise, to be honest with you, and how dominant they were. So, yeah, should be an interesting game, and yeah, hopefully when you're kind of looking through the scores and the results and everything else, we'll be seeing a Comer Rangers win. And yeah, considering what they have been building over the last 2 seasons and the progression they've made, I think it could be a huge achievement for them to come through it.
I think it will.
One thing on that game, Seamus, I think Southern Gales is the best player on the pitch, Schaefer O'Shea.
Yeah, that's true.
So we could be in for Southern Gales win.
I can't get past how Comer just battered Ballymacarbery. I can't.
It happens though. It happens to these teams when they reach a period where the players are aging. A lot of the players have moved on. They then start to dwindle a small bit, and then a new kind of team comes to the fore. For example, lads, Michelle Ryan, Waterford legend, has retired from club football.
Yeah.
He's not in the Ballymacarbery team anymore. There's a few others that aren't in the Ballymacarbery team anymore either. They've lost the last 2 Waterford championships. They struggled in the Senior B Championship last year against Clonakilty. So...
But still, they won 42 in a row. I don't think Michelle was playing for 40 years. But it is interesting.
Players moving on in their 80s.
Yeah, but obviously it's a good sign because it means that the championship is getting more competitive. But obviously, the talent coming through isn't to the level that it has been in previous years. So it'd be interesting to see now what kind of run Comer can go on, because obviously they've gone back to back. Be interesting to see if they can now add the Munster title to the collection, because obviously Castle Island won it last year, got to the semi-final stage, lost to Crokes. It'll be really interesting to see how far Comer can go this year, or can Southern Gales stop them at the very next hurdle. 3 more games in the LGFA on the Sunday at senior level that I want to highlight, and then all of the other games will be up and available to look at across the weekend as the results come in. And we'll also have then the weekend review show where we break them all down. The Ulster Senior semi-final sees Clonairon going up against St. Ergnitz and Lurgan going up against Errigal Kieran. Clonairon from Armagh and Ergnitz from Antrim. Lurgan from Cavan and Errigal Kieran, of course, from Tyrone. That's going to be a massive game on both sides there. And then the Connacht semi-final sees Westport of Mayo going up against Kilkerran Clonbyrne of Galway. Aaron, I'll give the Connacht semi-final to yourself. Westport have one hell of a task ahead of them. We were talking about Kilmacud Crokes and who could stop them in Leinster. I mean, that's Ireland for Kilkerran Clonbyrne. Can anybody stop this juggernaut?
I don't think so, to be honest with you now. And I think if it is going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen this weekend, to be honest. It's probably going to be when it gets to an All-Ireland semi-final or a final with a Crokes or who knows, maybe even a Dunshaughlin or something of that nature if they do come through. I think they'd be far too strong for Westport this weekend, especially looking at how dominant Kilkerran Clonbyrne have been in Connacht in recent seasons. Yeah, I think this should be a fairly comfortable win.
But it says something though, doesn't it? Like when we've had the year that we've had in the club championship, where Sarsfields have fallen, Cúilín have fallen, and yet, like Dr. Crokes, all 4 of the men's football semi-finalists from last season, they are all gone yet the one immovable, ever-present Kilkerran are just absolutely undeniable in this game. I don't think that anybody's going to beat them this year. I've said Kilkerran from the get-go, and my mind hasn't changed. Matthew, yourself then, the Ulster semi-finals. The majority of us have gone for Clonairin to win Ulster. They're going up against Ergnitz this weekend of Antrim, while we have Lurgan against Ergo Kieran on the other side of the draw. What final pairing are you expecting?
I would say Clonairin should get there. They've won the last few Ulster Championships, and they do with some fantastic players. Inter-county level, obviously, the likes of Claude McCambridge there, for instance. I think they should get over the line easily over Ergnitz. And then on the other side, I'm going to say Ergo Kieran. Maybe that's me saying that the men's side are good and the women's side are good and things like that. But they do have, they're bound to have one Canavan, aren't they? Ergo Kieran?
Yeah, no, they have Maria, I swear.
Yeah,
Maria,
surely they have to have one of them. But yeah, I'd say Ergo Kieran will get over the line. And Tyrone LGFA have had a very good year this year, winning the intermediate, and I think that will continue, and they'll get to the final. One more as well at the Connacht semi-final. The inevitable task of facing Kilcorn Clonberne in the final will be against either Glencar Manor from Leitrim or St. Bridget's from Roscommon. This is an interesting game. I would say Bridget's might get over the line, considering they are from Roscommon, a bigger kind of county, but Glencar Manor, they could cause a shock. We'll have to see what happens there. But a story on this, actually, and I think Bridget's actually posted this on Instagram, or they posted on social media during the week. Their men's final, obviously, against Porter Pierce, which we talked about at the start of the podcast, is on the exact same day in different venues to the LGFA team.
It's a classic old shit between two different organizations, isn't it? Like, just no communication. Like, lads, would it not be good to, like, I don't know, maybe even do a double header, like, put one after the other? It just the sooner that we get the associations integrated and singing off the same hymn sheet, the better. Because obviously this is just a case of, I get it, the club championship must be a logistical nightmare. Just the amount of club games, the amount of championships, the amount of, like, when you read through the list, Matthew, the fact that, like, the results that you are putting up, and fair play to you again for doing that. I know I say it every time, but I don't know how you get them all together so quick. But the fact that your results were going into the comments, that the description on Instagram isn't big enough to fit it all in. Imagine trying to find pitches and everything like that for it. But there should be a system that flags that, like, Bridges are playing this weekend. Let's try it in both the Connacht semi-final on the LGFA side and the county final on the men's side. Let's try and figure out a situation where we can get the Bridges club there for all games.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best one. Sorry, I thought you were fit to read something there. When I seen the phone pop up on the screen, I thought you were had something up. I was like, oh, he's about to cook.
Well, I'm just reading the statement from say Bridget's Roscommon, obviously, on Instagram.
All right, let him cook.
St. Bridget's GA are very proud to have both our senior teams in still competitive action on November 1st, which is Saturday, obviously. It is very unfortunate that both games are on the same day, with our ladies away to Glencar Manor Hamilton at 1 p.m. and our men playing Porter Pierce's in Dr. Hyde Park at 2:30 p.m. It is extremely unfortunate that there is a fixture clash, and every effort has been made by the club to avoid the games clashing. However, it is beyond our control. We thank Roscommon, the Roscommon County Board, for doing all within their power to try and avoid the fixture clash. We know how much our fantastic supporters wish to cheer on both teams in person. However, we will have Twitter updates available for both games to ensure that everyone is kept up to speed throughout the early afternoon. I suppose that's brilliant for the social media team that they're trying to keep updated with both the games. But at the same time, the Roscommon County Board, they're doing all within their power as well. But it's just the power to be, I suppose. The Roscommon County Board can control the Roscommon final in many ways, but it's the Connacht LGFA board that it's thrown the floor to. They have to move the fixture between St. Bridget's and Glencar Manor Hamilton. They have to do that, but they don't seem to be budging, which is very, very unfortunate. That post, just for context, was 1 day ago, so it's Thursday night. Hopefully there's a solution, but with the games on Saturday, I don't think there will be, unfortunately. And it's just
the one thing, if you're Glencar, are you going to agree? Let's say they say we're going to move the game from Where's the game being played?
Glencar Manor Hamilton against, I'm not sure exactly where the game is being played, away to Glencar, so it's in Glencar.
Okay, so if you're a Glencar, you're not going to want to agree to moving it to the Hyde, because that is very much taking it out of your territory and putting it smack bang in their territory. They're not going to agree to that. It's an unfortunate one. I really wish that there was a way that they could, and you're not going to move the Roscommon County Final out of the Hyde either. Yeah, it's a really tough one, but yeah, I don't really know what the solution is there, because again, once I heard it's in Glencar.
Yeah. Could you move the Roscommon final to Sunday? Because the Roscommon champions won't be in action until time. Ballinassie and North London. So I don't see it.
They want to go on the beer on Saturday night.
Of course.
I always think how much in your brain does it register if your county finals on Saturday night versus Sunday night? Let's be honest.
I'm sure. Yeah, I think maybe in the run up to it, but I think if you were to reschedule it now, I think there would be a lot of lads who would probably, who would have plans at this stage for that Sunday or even Saturday night. So probably would be a bit harsh, I think, to move.
Let's be honest. They're taking the Monday off anyway.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the clip of I think Madden? Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. Like, I mean, I was thinking there, like, that must feel surreal, like to be drinking with a team. I know that obviously they have the brotherly connection and everything like that, so obviously then they've just both achieved history. But it must be gas if you're like, there's no way that they weren't like 11 points deep or something at one stage and be like, yeah, we're gonna batter you. There's no way. Yeah. That wasn't there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they'll probably be baiting each other in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could meet down the line. That would be the sledging. That would be, you were locked after 4 points. You muppet, like that would be going on. So we'll see. But it was unbelievable scenes, and then the fact that it was so powerful as well. Obviously, the Grimley brothers, given the personal, the terrible loss that they suffered. It was unbelievable to see both, clubs get over the line. It was unbelievable stuff. So massive congratulations to both of those sides. And a big shout as well to Castletown, who obviously won the Westmeath title on the Monday. Interesting enough that that final was refixed to a bank holiday Monday, but massive shout to them as well for their success in that one. But that has been another episode here on Cúilín Media. We thank you, everyone who jumped on and watched a bit of the episode and who got involved in the discussion as well. You helped to make that episode another really enjoyable one. My thanks to Matthew and Aaron for jumping on for another episode with me here. We will be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. for another weekend review as always. Until then, enjoy the games this weekend. Agus Torah.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.